Again, if you are just joining us, I noticed that we did have quite a few people just joining on. We are here for the webinar Tech for Good, Making the Most of Your Microsoft Software Donation. And of course, we have two wonderful presenters here for you today, very knowledgeable folks. I am your facilitator, Dawn Krause, assisting with chat and questions in the background. Shala Harris and Stephanie Girding from TechSoup, and Gretchen Dio is with us from Microsoft. Our two presenters are James Rooney and Cameron Jones. I'm going to do some brief bios on them just so you have a little background information. James Rooney is the Program Manager for Microsoft's Technology for Good program. As part of that, he owns the company's relationship with strategic NGO partners, participates on the Microsoft Disaster Response Team, and develops technology solutions that benefit NGOs and their constituents. He is a 12-year veteran at Microsoft. He worked in the Microsoft Developers Network and Office International teams prior to joining the Citizenship and Public Affairs team. Welcome, James. Cameron Jones, our own Cameron Jones, is Program Director for TechSoup Global and manages the Microsoft Software Donation Program worldwide. Cameron works with Microsoft to ensure that their donations advance their global corporate philanthropy goals while meeting the needs of the NGO community. And here is what they are going to talk about today. James is going to start us off for what is Tech for Good. Then Cameron is going to do an overview of the Microsoft Software Donation Program. James is going to finish things up with resources, tools, and support for you. And then we're going to do a Q&A. And of course, we have people in the background who are going to be answering your questions live as they come in. And also, we will be recording questions for later on for a Q&A. So I might hold your questions till later. I hope that's okay, but we hope to get to all of them. And just to try and stimulate a little bit of conversation before we get going and to get your feedback on some Microsoft technology, we would love it if you would answer these questions for us. And the first one is, what Microsoft technology are you currently most interested in? So tell us in the chat what Microsoft technology you're currently most interested in. Okay, I'm seeing Windows 8 tablets. New Windows 8 was going to come up. Server 2012, Office software, any collaboration tools, which I know James is going to be interested in hearing. SharePoint, SCOM, S-C-O-M, I'm not sure about that one. Microsoft 365, Publisher, virtualization, Windows 8, Server 12, Office 2013, QuickBooks. Great. That's a great bunch. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question, and it might be the same answer. What Microsoft technology do you find most useful right now? So what Microsoft technology do you find most useful? Outlook. Yeah, that's a great one. The Office Suite. All our mailing systems in Outlook, Office, Windows 7, Office 2010, PowerPoint, Office 2010, SharePoint, Office 365, Exchange Server. Great. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. Visio, SharePoint, Publisher, PowerPoint. Again, of course, we use that today for our webinar. Okay, thank you so much for your feedback. We're going to move on so we can get to the great content we have. We have one poll today, and this is going to help us shape the future of the Microsoft Software Donation Program, so we would appreciate your feedback here. Which Microsoft Cloud technologies is your organization currently using? And if you're not using any, then of course you would hit none for us. So go ahead and select a response on the screen. Oh, James, I don't know if you're seeing this or not, but not many in our audience are using any of these cloud technologies yet. It looks like responses are tapering off here. We have 3 using Office 365, one using Dynamics CRM Online, and it looks like the rest are coming in as none. I hope that's helpful to you. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And there are the results, so the majority are not using any. And I'm going to move on. And James, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I'm handing it over to you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, and thanks for answering those questions earlier. That was great, very informative. And so we'll be talking about some of these things in the next couple of slides. So I'm only going to take a few minutes here. My main goal is to provide some context around our Tech for Good programs. I think a lot of today will be focused on the software donations piece, but I kind of wanted to show how that piece fits in amongst a larger context of what we're doing. So essentially our mission is to use technology to help solve complex social problems. It's pretty basic mission and it's fairly broad, but that's really what we want to do, is to see how Microsoft technology can be used by nonprofits, developers, whomever, to really help address some of the social problems going on. And there are 4 areas that we focus on here. One is around product awareness and adoption, showcases and solutions is another. Third is community of practice, and as well is disaster response. That's I'm part of the disaster response team here at Microsoft as well. That was mentioned in the bio, so I'll give you a little update on that. So I'm just going to kind of run through each one of these very briefly, and if you have any questions, obviously we can get to those. Okay, so around product awareness and adoption. So we do this really in a number of ways. One is the software donations side of things, which I won't get into too much detail right now, because it'll be talked about a little later. But in addition to that, we really use our website and other avenues to raise awareness of our other technologies. So with cloud, we don't have a nonprofit donation program. But we want to make sure that nonprofits understand what our cloud technologies are, how they can be useful. We have free services like SkyDrive, as well as some nonprofit discounted pricing on things like Dynamics CRM Online. And so there is a variety of cloud technologies at Microsoft, and we're really partnering with nonprofits in promoting the use of the cloud technology. And in addition, we have a lot of new products coming out. Windows Server and Visual Studio just launched, Windows, a new version of Windows, a new version of Office, and a lot more coming out. And so one of the things that we're really trying to do is help nonprofits understand what those technologies are all about, what the new features are, how it benefits them, and how they can gain access to them once they're readily available in the marketplace. In addition to kind of the product and technology side of things, we also work a lot on showcases and solutions. So when I talk about solutions, I mean actually developing technology solutions to address a specific issue or problem. And some of these we develop ourselves, like in the lower right-hand corner of the slides there are some screenshots of our local impact map in TechSoup, and AidMatrix are 2 users of that. That's something I'll talk about a little bit later into the tools and resources. And we also like to partner and support the creation of other people's technology solutions. So if nonprofits are doing it, if developers are doing it, any creative ways that they can use Microsoft technology, whether it be cloud or on-premise software, developing apps or things like CRM templates for nonprofits, we try to encourage those and make sure that when they are created that they're widely available. And then in addition, we also have org showcases where we partner with organizations to really showcase what our technology can do. These are meant to be creative and innovative uses of our technology, as well as examples to other nonprofits who are struggling with similar issues. An example here is some of the work that we've done historically with KEXP is a radio station here in Seattle. And a lot of what they do is based on Azure, and we worked with them closely to get them onto Azure and to really work with them in their transition to their online streaming and all of that kind of stuff. In addition, we want to encourage a community of practice around nonprofit technology and technology for social good. We do this in a number of different ways. Everything from, we really just want to contribute and be a part of the community out there. And so we try to attend and sponsor events such as NTC, and we're hosting a NetHope Summit next month for NetHope and its members. Through educational and advocacy events and activities such as this webinar, and other demos we put on at events and elsewhere, as well as NGO connection days that we help with around the world to help nonprofits understand what Microsoft technology is out there, what it can do, and how it can help them. And then lastly, the disaster and humanitarian relief space. And there's really a few ways in which we do this. One is by helping disaster relief organizations with the response capacity. So do they have the technology necessary to help kind of scale up when a disaster happens so they can effectively serve the communities that are most impacted by a disaster. And we do this really through global partnerships. You can see some logos of some organizations there on the left that we work with very closely. And in addition, outside of nonprofits, we work with communities at large, not only our own employees here at Microsoft to raise awareness of emergency relief efforts going on, but also via our blogs and our web properties to really kind of highlight when a disaster happens, how members of the community can get involved and help. So that really sums up the Microsoft Technology for Good programs, and hopefully it gives you a better sense of all of the work related to these programs and how the software donation piece fits within that larger. And I can pass it on to you, Cameron, if you're ready.
Great. Thank you, James. Hi, this is Cameron Jones from TechSoup Global, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Microsoft Software Donation Program and how it works and some of the mechanisms that organizations or some of the mechanisms that are kind of unique to that program. The software delivery model, we can go to the, I guess I move us to the next slide. The software delivery through TechSoup is somewhat different from what you might be used to on the commercial side. Donations through TechSoup are what are called volume licenses, meaning that you will receive a key and some information about how to access the products through the Microsoft Volume Licensing Service Center. The short for that is VLSC. And so when you received a Microsoft donation through TechSoup, you don't receive a box product with media and an install key as you would be used to. It's an email process, and then you can also request installation media if you choose. Microsoft donates over 200 products. There are over 200 products in our catalog, from ranging from servers to desktop products, security software, design graphic software such as the Expression Suite. We do not have any of the cloud products through this donation program at this time. Microsoft does not donate the cloud offerings today through TechSoup. However, we do have Windows 7 and soon Windows 8, Office 2010, and then Office 2013, which will be coming sometime early next year. Server software, some of the most popular server products that Microsoft produces is offered through this program. And I did see in the chat that somebody had asked about QuickBooks. QuickBooks is not a Microsoft product. It's an Intuit product, and we also do have those. We do have that software, but it's not part of the Microsoft program. So the Microsoft program rules, as you may be aware, each donation program through TechSoup has different rules and allotments and eligibility associated with it. The Microsoft program works on a 2-year cycle, so that you have a specific allotment of Microsoft products that you can request every 2 years, and then every 2 years your cycle resets and your allotment resets again. And so your 2-year cycle begins with your organization's first donation request and goes for 2 years from that date, and then resets again. So over the 2-year period, the allotment, organizations can make unlimited requests. So there's no, there used to be you could only request once a year, and that no longer is the case. You can request whenever you need software for your organization. And there's no minimum quantity requirement. You can request products from up to 10 title groups. So a title group is sort of like a product family. For example, Office Professional and Office Standard, those are all part of the same title group. So you can access products from up to 10 title groups and then up to 50 licenses per title. So you can get 50 licenses of Office Standard, or you could get 25 of Office Standard and 25 of Office Professional. Up to 50 is your maximum. Servers are the exception to this. For servers, you can request up to 5 server products, regardless of title group. So you can get 5 Exchange servers, or you can get 2 Exchange servers and a SQL server and a Windows server. So any combination of server products up to a maximum of 5 for the 2-year period. If you are unsure about what your organization has already requested and what you can still receive, there is the Microsoft Donation Center, which is accessible through your organization profile page. And it will show you exactly what products you have requested from which title groups, how many licenses you've already requested, and how many more you're still eligible for. In addition, you can see over on the right side there is a fair market value donation quantity. So in the example of this this test organization, they've received $5,000 worth of Microsoft software donations, and that's across the life of their donation history with TechSoup. That's not limited to the 2-year period. So that's just something for you to understand and realize the value of the donations that Microsoft has granted to your organization. Microsoft Donation Program eligibility. So we always get lots of questions about this. Like many of our programs, many more nonprofits are eligible than are not. 501c, you have to be a 501c3. C6s, C4s are not eligible. And public libraries are eligible to receive software donations as well for Microsoft, but for public access computing only. That's a unique twist to the Microsoft program, that they only donate for public access computers. Again, because it's easier to say who's not eligible than who is. In general, I would say schools, government agencies, healthcare organizations, and religious organizations and political organizations are not eligible. There are, of course, exceptions to each of these broad categories that where eligibility is granted. So we would encourage you to take our eligibility quiz that is on our website, and you can go through and identify your organization type and your activities, and it will give you a sense of what you're eligible for and if you're eligible for the Microsoft program. One thing I wanted to note about religious organizations, if religious organizations are running a secular program that's open to all and is not restricted by religious type or any other kind of discriminatory filter, those are also can be eligible for Microsoft donations. So that would be like a soup kitchen or a daycare center or a food bank. Many religious and faith-based orgs operate those types of programs, which are indeed secular, and those would be eligible for donations. So as I said before, the Microsoft donations are delivered as volume licenses, and the way that you access your software donations are through the Microsoft Volume Licensing Service Center. And so you get your licenses, you can also download products, you access your keys, you can get version upgrades. So there's all donations come, well, almost all donations come with something called software assurance benefits. And one of the most popular benefits of software assurance is that if you request a product today, and if a new version of that product is released within the next 2 years, you automatically can upgrade to that new version for free. You don't have to come back through the donation program. So for example, if you request Windows 7 today, when Windows 8 is released later in October, you'll be able to upgrade to Windows 8 for free at that time through the Volume Licensing Service Center. You can download the installation media and do your upgrade. To access Volume Licensing Service Center, you'll, as part of the fulfillment process for your donation request through TechSoup, you'll receive 2 emails. The second email will provide instructions on how to log into the VLSC, and then the process to access your keys and download media if you need it. It's a pretty straightforward process. This is what the homepage of VLSC looks like. You go ahead and you log in, and then you have access to a whole range of benefits of software assurance, and the menu provides a pretty straightforward way of navigating to access keys and licenses and downloads and anything else that you might need. So here's a screenshot that gives you an example of the product keys, so you can go in and this becomes your central repository for all of your product keys. So you can go in and see the products that you've requested and the product keys that you will need for installation. So those are, it's much easier to have them all here online in one central place. That way you don't have to keep track of a piece of paper with a product key printed on it in your office. They're all centralized and available to anyone in the organization who has access to the VLSC. So going back to software assurance, the benefits that I had mentioned previously, all donations except for the Get Genuine products come with software assurance. And so these are some of the kind of 3 most popular benefits of software assurance. The first one I already described is the new version rights. So again, if you request Windows 7 today, and when it's released next month, you can go in and download and install it for free. You don't have to come back and re-request it. E-learning, there are also some interactive training for you and staff to be able to go in and learn more about some of the products that you've requested. Office and operating system e-learnings are particularly popular amongst nonprofits that have received donations. And then the third most popular benefit is the home use program. So VLSC products that are requested for your nonprofit office. You can take, so if you request Office for your staff in your nonprofit, the staff can also take those products and install them on their computers at home, because with so many people working at home these days, working from home, flexible working schedules, Microsoft has recognized the need for compatible software both at home and at work. So that's a great benefit that I myself have taken advantage of. I have Microsoft Office on my work computer, and I've also been able to install it at home. So that kind of covers the Microsoft donation program. I haven't been really looking at the chat because I've been kind of busy focusing on the presentation. So I will turn it over to James now to talk a little bit about resources, tools, and support. And I will try to go through the chat and see if there are any messages that need answering from me. Over to you,
James. Yeah, thank you. So I just kind of wanted to touch on a few resources that Microsoft has for people who have questions about content, what we offer, the products, all that kind of stuff. So the first, a great resource to start with is our citizenship site for nonprofits. It is, you can see the URL right there. There's a lot of information there, including a section on who's eligible and what's available. There's also links to training and other resources as well. So it's kind of a good first place to start for any question you might have. In addition to that, each of the products we have has a help, tips, and tricks section on their website. So, Office.com, Windows.com, Dynamics, Azure, Visual Studio, whatever the product is, really, you can go to that product's website, and there's generally an entire help and how-to, tips and tricks section. There's a lot of really basic documentation, as well as training, videos, all that kind of stuff. So there's actually a lot of free resources online, depending on the product you like. I'm also going to take a moment to talk about our local impact map. This is also, it's not necessarily a tool or an information resource, but it's an application. It's one of those solutions that I mentioned earlier that we created here at Microsoft. We used it internally at Microsoft to tell our own CSR story at Microsoft, all the stories about how we're supporting nonprofits and efforts around the world. And so then what we did was we packaged it up and made it available in the Azure Marketplace for nonprofits and corporations to use. It's a $15 monthly fee. Essentially, that just covers the Azure cost, and then it's a Bing map built on an Azure backend with a CRM. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions about this offline. You can email me, or I'll include some contact information here later to learn more information about it. That URL is a good place to start. And then, of course, if you have just real support needs, that's the Microsoft Helpline. The number's right there. That's kind of your default for any kind of technical and help you need for your given product. And then lastly, we really want to stay in touch and to really help form this community and help contribute to the community. And the way we do that sometimes through our social media and blog. So you can see we have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter presence. That's the Microsoft Citizenship one. I've included my own page there as well. And then the Citizenship blog, of course, where tons of information, lots of blog posts. So those are also great ways to kind of stay in touch and keep on top of what we're doing and what we offer. And that's it. That's it for me.
Great. Thank you so much, James. Was there anything we wanted to address from the chat before we get to my list of questions? Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to catch up in the chat to see if there's any questions directed to me. So I didn't see anything directly, but there might be.
Okay. I'll go ahead with the formal questions, and if you see anything there, then you can just break in. Deanne, the first question from Deanne, are any of the adaptive programs such as ZoomText or JAWS in this program? I'm aware these are not Microsoft. Cameron, did you know that?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Are there any adaptive programs such as ZoomText or JAWS in the donation program at all?
Not today, unfortunately. I know that our development team has been working to try to get some adaptive technologies into our catalog, but today we don't have any. That being said, I do know that many of the Microsoft products have adaptive features that you can go in and customize the settings on different products to make them more adaptive for different types of disabilities. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. We had a question from Jason and I think several other people. Will there be an offering for nonprofits for MS365? So, James?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. So yeah, right now we do not have a nonprofit offering for Office 365 or Azure. As I mentioned, the only kind of nonprofit price discount we have is for Dynamics CRM Online.
Okay. Thank you. We have a question that came in from John, and this might be for either of you. What hardware software solutions would you recommend for a new nonprofit that the org can learn to use and be supported for the next 3 to 5 years? So what hardware software solutions would you recommend for a new nonprofit that the org can learn to use and be supported for the next 3 to 5 years?
So I'll take a stab at this. In terms of hardware, I hesitate to make any kind of recommendations around hardware or anything like that. But I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of promote the new products we have coming out. So the Windows 8 and the new version of Office coming out and all of those. I think that if a new nonprofit kind of wants to get started on a good footing and kind of using software that'll be brand new and around for the next 3 to 5 years, I think that's a good place to start.
Great. Thank you. Okay, it looks like Esperanza asked, related to TechSoup's donation, the market value amount that Cameron mentioned, Is it reported in our yearly returns? If so, do we get documentation of it?
This is the fair market value quantity that's the amount that's on the donation center?
Yes.
So that's just a cumulative number of all the donations that you've received. In your fulfillment emails from TechSoup, you will receive information about each donation that you request. You'll receive information about the product, the number of licenses, and the fair market value for each of those donations. So that's information for your records, and so that's where you can access information if you need to do some specific reporting about donations received during a specific time period. You should reference those fulfillment emails from TechSoup.
Thanks, Cameron. In relation to some of the cloud conversation we had earlier, Justin asked, what are the advantages to being on the cloud, and how difficult is it to transition to the cloud? James, maybe you could help with this one.
Yeah, sure. That's a really big question, and it somewhat varies in terms of the benefits and how complicated it is. It really varies from organization to organization, depending on what your current setup is, what you're hoping to go to, how big that gap is. So it really depends on what you're trying to do and kind of where you are at the moment. I know that's not the answer you're hoping for, but it really is kind of difficult to give a basic answer to that, because it really kind of does depend on what you're trying to do. I know that some just really high-level benefits in terms of the cloud. There is the ability to scale when needed, depending on what your organization does. With the cloud, it's very easy to kind of scale in terms of like emergency response. When a disaster strikes, people can scale up really quickly. So that's one consideration, as well as collaboration. Depending on, again, your organization, if you're worldwide, if you're in the U.S., if you're around a particular region, what type of workforce you have, the collaborative kind of benefits of being in the cloud can be really good to the nonprofit in terms of reasons to ship. So hopefully those help. They're somewhat vague, but again, it kind of depends on each organization's situation.
Thanks, James. The next question is from Ray, and actually we did answer Ray in the chat, but this message, or this chat message, might apply to the group, so just wanted to put it out there. Just want to be clear, says Ray, is TechSoup the sole/main source for distributing Microsoft products, or can they be obtained directly from Microsoft? If the latter, please elaborate on the value add that TechSoup provides. Anybody want to address that one?
So I can jump in. In terms of distributing software to nonprofits, TechSoup is completely valuable for Microsoft. It allows us to more easily distribute nonprofit software to the thousands of nonprofits that we do. Trying to manage that ourselves would be a monumental task, and so TechSoup offers a huge benefit to Microsoft. That partnership we really value because TechSoup has the connections, has the process for getting everything out the door and everything like that. So TechSoup we really rely on for the software donations. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks, James. That did. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Is TechSoup/Microsoft ever going to offer access to Microsoft support for free over the phone rather than paying hundreds of dollars for, say, a server support issue?
I can say that I am aware of no plans for that. But I'm not really on the support side of things necessarily so much, and so I have very little visibility into kind of their plans for supporting the products and services we offer. So I can't offer much detail there, I'm afraid.
Okay.
We have there's also the TechNet service, which is some level of service, but I don't think it exactly addresses the question that's being asked, but I'm not entirely sure. But
okay,
like I said before, so I'm not hugely familiar with the TechNet product. I know it is it is a service product,
okay.
and there is a product description on the TechSoup website about it. In addition, through Software Assurance, there is, like we had said, there's some trainings and some other information about some of the products that you request, and that can be accessed for free through the Volume Licensing Service Center.
Okay, great. Thank you. Esperanza asked another question. What are our fiscal responsibilities with the donations from TechSoup? Is there a place on the website that we can look for this?
So I can answer this one. So to be clear, the Microsoft donations or the Adobe donations or the Cisco donations that you receive through TechSoup. TechSoup is kind of an intermediary. We facilitate the donations, but you've received this donation directly from Microsoft, not from TechSoup. And so that was the first thing I wanted to make clear. And in terms of your fiscal reporting responsibilities around software donations, we don't provide advice or information about that. That's kind of a legal question, which the rules around that can vary from state to state, and so that's not an area of expertise for us. We would suggest you talk with your financial advisor for your organization to find out what your obligations are in terms of reporting of software donations.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking through the rest of the comments here just to make sure that we have covered everything.
I see an interesting question about a computer lab in Haiti.
Okay.
The question is, would a computer lab in Haiti, part of an open enrollment 1,100 student church-supported school, be considered for TechSoup? Is the fact that it is part of a school, despite being open enrollment, be disqualifying? So it depends on if the organization requesting the products is a Haitian nonprofit or a U.S. nonprofit. So there are some limitations on. We do not serve Haitian nonprofits at this time. That's not a country where we've been able to make the donation program available. However, U.S. nonprofits with operations overseas are able to request products through the U.S. organization and install them and use them in overseas offices and centers, with the requirement that the ownership of the hardware that the software is being installed on remain with the U.S. organization. So it's a question of wanting to make sure that those software licenses continue to be tied to the organization that's requested them, the U.S.-based 501c3, rather than having them owned by a Haitian nonprofit or by a nonprofit. And that's one other thing I wanted to point out, is that donated licenses are not transferable from one organization to another. The only exception to that would be if two organizations merge operations and legally become one organization. But otherwise, so in the case of Haiti, you might be able to request products through a U.S. organization, but they would have to continue to be owned and licensed by that U.S. organization. They could not be transferred.
Okay. Thank you for elaborating on that for us verbally. Was there anything else that came into chat that you and James saw that we might want to address?
Nothing else is jumping out at me. It
Okay.
looks like most things have been covered, I think.
Okay. Well, it looks like then we might end 15 minutes early today. I do want to, unless you had anything, Cameron, just want to check with you.
No, I see a couple questions coming in about other products from other donation programs such as Adobe. Those are separate donation programs from the Microsoft program and have separate eligibility requirements and quantity allocations. So if you have questions about those programs specifically, I would encourage you to look at the TechSoup website under the donation information for that particular program to get eligibility information.
Great, thank you. And I think with that, I will thank our presenters today, as well as the TechSoup behind-the-scenes folks who did a great job with us on chat today. I thank all of the participants for coming today and participating with us. I am closing out the actual web portion of the meeting, but you should still hear the audio here, and a survey should have popped up for most of you. We would really appreciate your feedback. We do shape our webinars via your feedback and would appreciate any feedback you can give us there. An email from today's presentation will be sent to you within 1 to 2 days. It will have the PowerPoint slides and any links that we referred to and any other resources. Please do let us know your feedback in the survey. And if it doesn't pop up for you, it will be a link in the email follow-up as well. And so even if it's 1 to 2 days later, we would still appreciate your feedback. So thank you again, James and Cameron, and everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.